Welcome back to another exciting episode of Starknet Espresso. I remain your humble host, Uche. Today we are diving into one of the most important conversations happening in crypto: privacy, security, the future of freedom tech, with someone who is right at the center of it all, Abdel from StarkWare. Welcome, Abdel, to Starknet Espresso. It's such a pleasure to have you finally with us.
Yeah, thank you, man. Finally, I'm so glad to be here with you, man.
Yeah. So without wasting much time, for most of our listeners who are new to your work, can you introduce yourself and what you do with Starknet?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Abdel. I'm coming from an engineering background, and before working in crypto, I was working in the fintech industry, building cloud-based payment solutions for banks, and then I discovered Bitcoin in 2011, 2012, something like that. I was like very interested by the technological aspect and philosophical aspect of Bitcoin and so on. But then it's only a few years later when I discovered Ethereum that it was a sufficient call for me to want to work in the space, and I decided to leave my company. I joined Consensus. I worked as an Ethereum core developer for 4 years. Working on Ethereum, and then I joined StarkWare, building Starknet, and today I'm head of ecosystem at StarkWare, and basically trying to bring more talented teams to build on Starknet, to grow the ecosystem in general, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Great. And I believe personally, I think you guys have done a tremendous job when it comes to StarkWare, Starknet. I think most of my early days on following Starknet, you are one of the people that I started following on Starknet, following your work. So it's really been interesting following StarkWare. And that leads to my next question, because you've been involved with StarkWare for the longest time. How would you describe the evolution of Starknet going forward? I know when I joined Starknet, it was all about scaling Ethereum, but we've seen that Bitcoin is also part of the equation. We're talking about privacy. There's a lot of things going on. How would you describe this evolution?
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually. It's true that for a long time, when you try to be everything, in the end, you are nothing. And at the beginning, we knew that Starknet technology was extremely powerful, that it could unlock a lot of things, but we did not know at this time where we wanted to put the focus and so on. So we were just seeing Starknet as just a general purpose scaling solution where you could do almost everything. And at the beginning, when we bootstrapped the ecosystem, we wanted to attract as many developers as possible, and across many different verticals and different products like DeFi, gaming, and everything like that. We did not really want to put a focus on one particular vertical or area, because also we did not have the choice. We needed to bring a lot of developers because, as you know, we are not EVM compatible. So we needed to bootstrap an ecosystem from scratch, and it's extremely difficult and so on. So we could not be filtering too much in terms of the stuff we wanted to see on Starknet. And also it was not clear what would be the thing that will make Starknet successful and so on. So that's why we did not limit ourselves into something specific. But then after some years and more recently, I think a year and a half ago, we realized that the meta of general purpose layer 2s is not really successful, and there is too many different competing L2s that are just general purpose L2s. And it's with Starknet being kind of unique and not even compatible and so on. But in general, you have more than 100 L2s and so on. So you need to be different. We needed to Starknet to be different and to specialize in something. And we start to see that this something might be about Bitcoin. We are long-term Bitcoin believers. Many of us are strong Bitcoin believers. I am myself almost a Bitcoin maxi, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or I would say a Bitcoin minimalist, which is slightly different, and I can expand what the difference is later. But yeah, we knew that Starknet could be useful for Bitcoin at some point. And that is from a very long time. Like Eli was saying, even in 2013, even before the creation of Ethereum, that zero knowledge proofs could be useful for Bitcoin at some point. So this is not new, but for a very long time, it was not possible. And then after doing more research and investing more time, we believe that Starknet can be like very useful for Bitcoin to unlock the Bitcoin economy, to bring like Bitcoin into productive assets that you can use, and you can do a lot of things with it, and not just only payments. And there is demand from that. It seems like some people want to do more with their Bitcoin. So yes, we believe that Starknet specialization is around that, like unlocking Bitcoin economy. And for that also you need privacy. That's why also we put a strong focus on privacy, because this is something that is missing on Bitcoin. But we can deep dive more into those topics later, but that's the TLDR, and the transformation from being just a general purpose scaling solution to something that is a bit more specific. Even if it's like, look, Starknet is permissionless, it's still, you can do everything on it. And of course, we welcome every builder building anything on Starknet. But for us, yes, we are putting a stronger focus on unlocking the Bitcoin economy. But we do have like very interesting products aside from that. Like we have very strong perps, extended paradox that are using our tech. But yeah, our current focus is mostly on unlocking Bitcoin economy with Starknet.
Yeah, I think I agree with you a lot. And one thing I find very common with, and I've interviewed a lot of people from Starknet on the show, one thing I find very common is the confidence they have when they talk about these things, right? I've had Visu, even Jan from XVAS was here, and he was very bullish on the capability of Starknet. I think the question would be, why do you think Starknet is uniquely positioned to achieve all these things? And we're talking about in a short period of time, there's been massive development and achieved milestones, I would say. Why do you think Starknet is uniquely positioned to achieve these things? Is it the tech? Is it the infra? What exactly is breeding this confidence in the community?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think it's a combination of multiple factors. One of them is obviously the tech and the fact that it was built from first principles from the beginning, in a way that is very long-term thinking, you know. Everything that was made, for the decision that were made in the beginning, they were like not the easiest decision, as in those were decisions that were an investment, long-term investment. For example, just the fact that it's not EVM compatible. It was very hard decision because, of course, like it's much harder to bootstrap an ecosystem and so on. But now that we have solid foundation, it's much better for us. Why? Because we are fully sovereign on our roadmap. We don't depend on anything. Because imagine you are building an EVM L2. You need to pay attention to the future development of the EVM and stuff like that, because it's not as the EVM is completely finished yet. It can continue to evolve. Even more than that, there are discussions now about removing the EVM from Ethereum layer 1 at some point and to replace it with something that actually looks like Cairo. For those who don't know, there is this discussion about lean Ethereum and lean VM, which is exactly the idea of doing something like Cairo. Vitalik himself, he said lean VM is based on Cairo, literally. So we have solid foundations and we control our roadmap. We don't depend on anything. And this is extremely solid position for us now because we can innovate much faster than anyone else. We don't depend on any change in the future. So that's one. Then, because our tech is strongly designed to be like very efficient for zero knowledge and so on, and to be also like quantum resistant and this kind of stuff, it's very, very good for what is needed for Bitcoin. Because on Bitcoin, unlike most of the other crypto ecosystems, Bitcoiners, they are not willing to make compromises and sacrificing the important properties of Bitcoin, censorship resistance, security, decentralization, and so on. And we have the best tech for that. That gives the best trade-offs if you don't want to sacrifice those properties. Unlike, for example, let's say Solana. Solana, they also want to do BTC-Fi, Bitcoin Finance, and they are bragging about it and so on. Yes, you can do a lot of things with that, but the problem is that you cannot really truly unlock Bitcoin economy in a trustless way, as we will be able to do in the future with Starknet. Like technically, like to be completely honest, today yes, it's more or less the same. BTC5, because right now we are doing BTC5 with wrapped Bitcoin assets like WBTC,
Yeah.
TBTC, etc. So it's no different from what you can do on Solana from this point of view. It's true. Maybe the only difference is that, for example, we have Bitcoin staking that is included directly in the protocol. It's not on the application level. And we are on the only blockchain with that. So it's a very good thing when you want to generate yield on your Bitcoin. Because the staking is directly in the protocol. It's not in an application on top of the protocol, so it's very good. So the only risk is the counterparty risk of the wrapped Bitcoin. So, but we are better on that one. But we have a path to make it trustless at some point with some intermediate steps. The next big one will be the BitVM bridge that will reduce the trust assumptions, that will be much better than what you can have today in terms of wrapped Bitcoin assets and so on. And at some point, hopefully, it will be possible to verify zero-knowledge proofs directly on Bitcoin, which would require some change in Bitcoin, but we are confident that at some point it will come. And when it comes, we will be the only layer that can extend trustlessly Bitcoin this way. So we have a credible path to full trustlessness at some point. So the idea for people to understand is that if you come and put your Bitcoin on Starknet today, you have a future-proof place for your Bitcoin, because the trust will improve over time and so on, which is not the case with other network like Sui or Solana, that are the ones that are also that also want to tackle BTC5. Yeah. So this is where we are uniquely positioned. So that's purely on the tech front. But aside from that, there is also like the social aspect, the cultural aspect, the fact that we have strong Bitcoin DNA resources. We are close to a lot of Bitcoiners, a lot of Bitcoin teams, and so on. And for this, we are also uniquely positioned. We have a stronger reputation and credibility because we are doing like heavy research work on Bitcoin and this kind of stuff. So I think also this can play a big difference long term.
Yeah. I think I completely agree with you, especially on the tech aspect of it, because in one of the conversations that I had, we were talking about how Starknet is easy now, especially for users and for, developers alike now, because when I got into Starknet, I think that was back in 2023, Cairo was still very, very, a very strong language. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think what Starknet or StarkWare has done is they've concentrated on the infra, on the tech at the early stages to make it easy for people coming in now. And I think people coming in now are finding it very easy to get into the system, especially with UX. I think Visu has one of the best UX when it comes to DeFi. So I understand. I can see it, but I wanted you to explain it for people to have a broader view of what that looks like. Going on to the next thing, one of the main reasons why I reached out to you was this idea of privacy. There's been so much talk on privacy. In fact, my idea of privacy was centered on pseudonymity until Ellie Ben-Sassin made a thread on X about privacy. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is quite different from what I thought privacy is. And it makes more sense that you're here today. Can you give us a brief on pseudonymity versus privacy, and then maybe weed into more on what privacy is all about on blockchain?
Yes, sure. So yes, privacy is like it's not a binary thing. It's a spectrum, and yes, the most basic level for privacy is pseudonymity, which is the idea that you cannot link your on-chain identity and your real-world identity. So that you have this pseudonymity basically on almost every blockchain, unless like you have like a link with a centralized exchange with KYC and this kind of stuff. But by default, you have like some pseudonymity on the blockchain. But this is not sufficient, and because you are still vulnerable to some analysis. Like with sufficient data, people can link you to your identity to track your moves, and you are vulnerable because if you do one mistake, then it can link like to your real identity, and everything you did in the past will be now linked to you. So it's very problematic. So this is not sufficient, and we strongly believe that there is no real sovereignty without privacy. There is no real freedom without privacy. It's not like this is not a choice. Like if we want blockchain and Bitcoin to succeed, we need privacy, because it's a big risk of capture and risk of attacks from nation states and powerful actors, because they can put a lot of pressure on people if you don't have privacy. So we have to fix privacy. So pseudonymity alone is not sufficient. So you need like full anonymity. And then again, it's also a spectrum, and you have multiple levels. For example, for transfers, payments, you can have like multiple level. You can have like confidentiality, which is like no one knows how much you will transact, but they will know about the sender and recipient. And then you have full anonymity, when you hide both the amounts, but also the addresses of the sender, recipient, and so on. So this is a spectrum, and the goal is to move like to closest to the maximum to perfect privacy, which is when you hide everything. You hide the amounts, the activity. You cannot link to your identity, and your activity is preserved in a privacy-friendly way, and no one can link and see what you do, even by doing analytics on the data on the blockchain and stuff like that. And this is very important for freedom of the people, and also like even also to bring like institutions and this kind of stuff. They also need privacy, different kind of privacy. Like you have compliant privacy, which is something that institutions need. And then you have more like the cypherpunk kind of privacy for the people. That is the ultimate protection level, I would say. But yeah, privacy is a spectrum. And we believe that Starknet Tech also is uniquely positioned for that, because the best way to bring privacy is to use zero-knowledge proofs. So we started to use zero-knowledge proofs to solve scaling, and we managed to do it in a very good way. Now Starknet is very scalable, and we are still improving on that front. But now it's really time to also use zero-knowledge proofs to fix privacy, and this is where we are putting more focus right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I've heard a lot of talk about privacy. I mean, we've seen platforms like Moreno. I think Tornado Cash also came, and they all left. And the question still remains at the mind of people: what is the different thing that is going to be done to achieve this? What would you say, widely accepted privacy? And if you believe that is going to happen, what approach could be taken? But what is the challenge for Moreno and platforms like Tornado Cash? Why did they just suddenly eviscerate? What's the problem?
Yeah, it's a good question. The problem is the tension between cypherpunk privacy and compliant privacy. The problem with platforms like Tornado Cash and so on, why they were in trouble is that because they are not compliant. So the regulators and entities like that, they are attacking them because they are saying that they can facilitate criminal activities. So this is problematic. A mitigation to that, which is like not ideal from the cypherpunk philosophy, but that is practically mandatory for some blockchain companies, is to have compliance, which would bring privacy, but in a way that will still comply with those regulators and stuff like that, because the idea would be to be able to prove that you are not part of a blacklisted address, or that you did not do criminal activity and this kind of stuff, that would still comply with anti-money laundering rules and this kind of stuff. So there is tension here. And for us, we, as a company, like StarkWare as a company, will have to implement some compliance mechanism into the Starknet privacy features. But of course, Starknet is permissionless, and the tech can enable also cypherpunk pure privacy features. But again, then the risk model is not the same. And this is actually very sad that the Tornado devs and also Samurai, which is the Bitcoin wallet offering privacy, they also got in trouble right now. And this is very problematic. And I hope that, look, it's a fight, and at some point we'll have to fight. privacy is normal. It should be considered normal. It's not acceptable to kill the freedom of 99% of the population in the sake of fighting criminals, because actually criminals, they are using fiat money. Most of the criminal activity are using dollar anyway. So I think it's an excuse to bring more control and surveillance and so on. And we'll have to fight against that in a way. For, like, those people, those regulators, they need to understand that this technology is empowering people. It's improving human lives, and for people that need it the most, like fighting against tyrannies, surveillance, authoritarian regimes, and so on. This is good for humanity. It's not a bad thing. So we should not accept that this excuse of fighting criminality, so we have like to kill the freedom of everyone. It should not be like that. So hopefully it will move in the right direction. And the more people work on privacy, the more it will be considered normal. So that's why I was also happy to see the recent success of Zcash, because it brings more confidence for people to say, okay, privacy is normal. Let's work on privacy. It's good for humanity. We need it. And now you see more and more champions advocating for privacy, and this is good. We need that.
Yeah, great. Just to strike a balance, I've thought about this privacy issue with regulators, and I think it is not just down to regulators. I mean, I understand what they are doing, but I also understand they are being heavy-handed. I think I agree with you completely with what you said. The problem, however, I see is that people will always take money to where there's the least friction. So if, like, for platforms like Tornado Cash and let me say Moreno, you'll find out that people are going to start pulling out money because of the regulatory problems that they have. And that's also another problem as an extension of the state interfering with what is happening. So I think what I agree, I think there should be a compromise. It might not be the ideal situation, but if the larger population or users are going to react to these regulatory activities from governments and states, then we might have to come to a place where we might have to compromise on, let's say, I think you've mentioned it, where we have some elements of auditability in privacy. And I think that might be the best way going forward. I don't think it's the ideal. I totally agree with you, but I see we can make some compromise when it comes to that.
Yeah, maybe it's a necessary evil, I would say. But hopefully at some point it will be considered completely normal to have like full privacy and so on. But yeah, maybe like we have to do some compromises in between as an intermediate solution to have more adoption. And hopefully with time, the regulators, they will understand that it's a net positive for humanity.
Yeah. You've mentioned Zcash while we were talking, and I think this is also another buzz in the Starknet ecosystem, the Starknet. So Starknet with a Z is the partnership between Zcash and Starknet. Can you walk us through that collaboration?
Yeah. By the way, it's funny because no one knows how to pronounce it. So that's part of the yeah. No one knows. Some people say Starknet. Some people say Starknet. Like, it's funny actually. I like it. It's part of the meme. Yeah. So Starknet, let's say. So yeah. Like, there is no official partnership right now. It's more an idea that I submitted to the Zcash community. I submitted a proposal in the Zcash forum about adding something in Zcash that would enable building a Starknet layer 2 on top of Zcash. And I think it's something very interesting for the Zcash community. And so far, the reaction has been very good. There is a lot of appetite from the Zcash community, Zcash ecosystem people. They like it a lot. I'm discussing that with many people from the Zcash ecosystem, like Zuko, many people from Electric Coin Company, which is the equivalent of StarkWare for Zcash. So this was the company where Eli Ben Sasson was before creating StarkWare. So there is a lot of appetite. So the idea is the following. Like, Zcash is initially a fork of Bitcoin, so it's also very limited in what it can do. So you can have like private payments, but that's it. And also it's like not very scalable for the moment. Yeah. So the idea of Ztarknet was to try to bring a solution to both, to bring programmability and more features, and also scaling with the layer 2 on top of Zcash, which is, I think, the best compromise, because you can still have the hard asset on the layer one to keep it simple and minimal. And then you have innovation, more features on the layer two, many apps and so on. So I did the proposal. Then when we implemented a proof of concept of that with this Starknet testnet, that people can use, and they can deploy Starknet applications, and they would settle on a Zcash testnet. So this is to show that it will be possible by doing a small change in Zcash. We wanted to demonstrate that it's possible. So there is a live testnet running, and some people used it as part of the Zcash hackathon. There is currently a big Zcash hackathon. We got 55 submissions in the Starknet track, and many people actually deployed some application on the Starknet testnet. So it's very cool. It's a good demonstration of what you can do. And hopefully at some point the community will like it more and more, and maybe at some point they will even consider it to implement it for real on Zcash, and then maybe you will see some Starknet L2 on top of Zcash. That could be an interesting thing to see in the future.
Yeah, I think one of my friends actually participated in the Zcash on the Starknet, the hackathon, and I don't know how he complained that it was difficult, but I think he did very well in the hackathon too. Evans,
Nice.
maybe I'll ask him later about it.
Cool.
Yeah. What do you think? What would be the ideal picture if this partnership works? What are we looking at in terms of if I'm a user coming in and Starknet, or I prefer Starknet, and Starknet works and it works, what would be the ideal? What would be my ideal experience?
It's a good question. Look, it depends. There are multiple possible options. One of them would be to have a completely separate network, like Ztarknet, that would be separate, and that would not be like the same Starknet as you have today. It would have its own liquidity, own application, and it will settle only on Zcash. Another possibility is to have the current network that will be able to settle on both Ethereum, Zcash, and Bitcoin. Similarly to what we want to do in the future for Starknet, to settle both on Ethereum and Bitcoin. Then maybe you could imagine to do that with Starknet, with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Zcash. That will be another option. And with this option, the good thing is that you could reuse the same applications. It will be the same network. You could reuse the same liquidity and so on. Both would be possible. So it depends. I don't know what would be ideal for the user experience. I mean, like for Zcash people, if they want like something that is very specific, maybe they would prefer like a very Starknet specific L2 that use only Zcash. I don't know. It's a good question. Multiple options are possible. Yeah.
Okay. I think for me, I often wonder sometimes, like looking into it. I mean, from the time we started talking, I saw the Zcash Starknet thing. One of the things I started thinking about is address shielding, so account shielding. So if you're going to start bridging now, and this is where I see maybe like a little bit of loophole. If I'm going to bridge from Zcash to Starknet, at some point my address is going to be exposed. Is there anything that will be done to mitigate that?
It's a very good question. Yes, currently with Starknet today, yes, it would be exactly that. You would like lose the privacy when you bridge to the Starknet L2. Yeah, you would lose it. But as I said earlier, we are working on privacy. So I cannot disclose everything, but we'll communicate in the coming weeks about the privacy features that we will include in Starknet protocol. And this will be a solution to that. So that you can have privacy on the L2 as well, and without losing privacy from the L1. It will be a bit more complex, but there will be solution from going directly from shielded Zcash on L1 to something that is preserving privacy on the Ztarknet L2. Yeah, but currently today you are right. If we were to implement it today with current Starknet, yes, you would lose privacy when bridging to the Starknet L2. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Any ideas when we are going to see the earliest form of a practical Starknet coming to life? Yeah.
Look, it depends because it's not on our control because it requires a change in Zcash. So right now, I made the proposal, the official proposal. The they have some voting mechanism, so the community can signal if they are interested in seeing this proposal proposed in a future upgrade on Zcash. But this depends on the appetite of the community, if the token holders also they want to see this and so on. So yes, it depends. We probably, if we want to see that happen, we need more education, more advocacy for that with the Zcash community, for more people to understand the benefits of that, and then they will want to include that in a real upgrade. But yeah, it depends on the inclusion of this feature into an upgrade on Zcash. Yeah.
Fair enough. It's something that I'm really looking forward to. I like to see how that pans out. One topic that is often overlooked or that is often ignored when it comes to privacy security is quantum computers. And again, I think Starknet does a whole lot of things at the same time. And this is why I love the platform. You're always learning. So the one question is, how close are we to quantum computers, and how important is it for a quantum resistance, what would you say, cryptography for the future?
Yeah, good question. Look, I think it's a very important question. There is no consensus right now on the timeline for the threat. We believe that we should be ready sooner rather than later. There was a podcast recently between Eli and Prof. Scott Aronson, who is like one of the biggest quantum cryptography expert in the world. And he's in the opinion that it will come sooner than we think. And that there is no more breakthrough required right now. It's more a matter of time, and that it will come. So my personal gut feeling estimation will be something between 5 to 10 years for it to become like something as a serious threat. But even if it's a bit more, I would still consider that it's time to think about it, at least to have a plan, because it's not as you can migrate easily from a system that is not quantum secure to a system that is quantum secure. So you need to plan it a long time in advance, especially in the case of Bitcoin, for example, where, having changes is slow and so on. And if you want a realistic path to migration, it should be a multi-year path, like for users to prepare slowly to the quantum threat and have all the tooling to adapt and so on. So that's why I'm in the opinion that we should take this threat seriously and to try to think about it, at least to have a credible path to a quantum safe plan. This is the current approach that we have for Starknet. So we are lucky because one of the main beautiful properties of Stark proofs is that they are quantum resistant. So that's very, very cool. Starknet itself today is not, because, but the proving system is. It's not today because we are supporting signature schemes like on Ethereum with the same curve and so on. And elliptic curve signatures, they are broken by quantum computers. They will be broken by quantum computers. So, but we can easily adapt and have a plan to migrate to quantum safe Starknet. And we are looking into this seriously. But at least we have our proving system that is already quantum safe today. So that's very cool, which is not the case for snarks and other proving systems. So Stark proofs are quantum safe. We are preparing the work, and we are also actively collaborating with people on Bitcoin that are thinking about post-quantum Bitcoin efforts and initiatives. And we are following that actively, and we want to help on that. And we believe that Stark proofs can be a very good tool to prepare for the quantum threat.
Oh, fair enough. I'm just thinking, do you think that there's going to be a time where this quantum resistant infrastructure becomes a regulatory requirement for every blockchain out there?
Yes, I think it will be the case at some point. And even like the NIST, which is a standard for cryptography and so on, that is giving recommendations, they are recommending already to start removing elliptic curve cryptography by, I think, 2030 or something like that. So it's already happening. You already start to see standardization recommendation from the industry to start moving progressively to quantum safe cryptography. So it's already happening, and at some point it will be mandatory. So it's better to prepare in advance.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Sorry, just to go back on privacy a bit, I was watching I recently watched a podcast where Eli Ben Sasson was talking about corporate chains, and I think it had a lot to do with privacy, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If Starknet eventually gets to hit privacy with Starknet, is going to bring in a lot of institutions, right? And then this whole idea of corporate chain could be abandoned.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we don't need Starknet to have like a private Starknet app chains. We can already have them today. Like Paradex, for example, is a good example of that because it's the same stack as Starknet. It's a Starknet L2, but not the same as the public Starknet. But this is exactly the same stack. And it's an app chain, and it has some components of privacy. So this is already very good for institutions today. Instead of like going with those corporate chains, corporate alt layer 1, they can leverage Ethereum level security by having an L2 and having privacy. So they don't have to choose. So it's best of both worlds, and this can happen already today. So we are already in discussion with some institutions that want privacy features, and we can offer those features today.
Oh, great. Yeah, just because I wanted to touch on it. I heard him in one of the podcasts, so I just wanted to like confirm how it's going to look like. One of the topics that I've discussed the most this year is Bitcoin. In fact, it started last year. I think the first person that mentioned it on the podcast was David Barreto. At the time, there wasn't so much talk about Bitcoin on Starknet, but that was last year. I think it was around September last year when he came on the podcast. And this year, there's been a lot of talk about Opcat, BitVM, there's Collider VM too, but all is centered on bringing ZK to Bitcoin. And I think you're one of the most vocal people when it comes to X on this. What do you see? And I think I had Post Capone. Yeah, Post Capone was on the show. He received, I don't know if you know him, he received a grant to research it.
Yes.
So the question would be, how far have we gone on this? Is there any possibility of seeing this happen soon? Especially with Opcat. I think Opcat is the most important one. I feel that's going to enable a lot of things happen. But how far have we gone with this? Where do we stand today?
Yeah. In terms of the research area, we are progressing a lot, and it's going very well. Same for the engineering part. We are very confident on that front. The problem is that it's mostly about like convincing the Bitcoin community about the change, and this year has been very bad for this because there is a huge drama going on the Bitcoin community. You might have heard about it with the filter war or the spam war or something like that. There is a big divide in the community right now, and there is even potentially a risk of a soft fork attempt from one of the camp. I can summarize a bit the conflict here, but this is something that has slowed down a lot the discussions about adding ZK to Bitcoin and so on, unfortunately. So this started actually with the white paper of ZtarkNet, which is also a project that is aiming to build the Bitcoin L2, a Bitcoin rollup using BitVM. Okay, it's a very good team. I really love them. They are very good, very serious. So they released their paper explaining the design of the bridge and so on. And they mentioned in the paper, they said, oh, if we could like put more data into op return, which is like one opcode in Bitcoin, we could do this in a very specific edge case that we are not supposed to use, blah, blah, blah. And they never asked for it. They just said, okay, if we could put more data, we could do that. And then there is a Bitcoin core dev that saw that, and he was thinking, oh, actually, maybe we should consider it. And then there was a proposal to increase the size of the data you can put in op return and stuff like that. And then it escalated and created a huge conflict in the community because there are basically two camps. One camp that say Bitcoin is money only, and it should support only monetary use cases and so on. And some other people that say, yes, it's money, but It's also a settlement layer where you can put arbitrary data for some use cases, and some use cases can even be monetary use cases, blah, blah, blah. And then it escalated, and there are really two camps. And then there are two implementations of Bitcoin: Bitcoin Core, which is the main used implementation, and Bitcoin Nuts, which is a fork of Bitcoin Core. And those people are fighting on where to put the limit on the number of data you can put in those things and so on. And the whole attention and discussion about Bitcoin is around that at the moment. So it completely distracted away from discussing about adding ZK, unfortunately. I hope that we are close to the resolution of this conflict with one camp that is now proposing some fork. And my guess is that their attempt will fail, and then probably they will lose credibility, and then we can go back to the serious topics, and we can go back to discussing ZK on Bitcoin, covenants, and other stuff. But right now, this year has not been very good in terms of progressing for adding ZK on Bitcoin, unfortunately. But hopefully, we are close to the end of the conflict, and there will be a resolution, and then it will be time to bring serious topics again.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, just to the Bitcoin community, they are brutal. I was in I was in the Ordinal Show Twitter X space one of those days, and yeah, I think it was bifurcated between the Maxis and those who wanted more for Bitcoin. It was brutal. The way the back and forth was brutal. I can imagine what it looks like. Yeah,
it's insane. As we said, that there is this motto that Bitcoin is for enemies. It's actually true, but you know, people in the crypto industry, they are concerned about it, or they think it's bad to think that Bitcoin is for enemies. But the true meaning of that is that, yes, in a trustless, permissionless system, you can transact with your enemy. And this is the whole point. Countries that will be even at war, they could use Bitcoin together to transact. This is amazing. This is beautiful when you think about it, that this technology can work even for enemies. So this is something we should embrace. Of course, there are limits, and you should not be toxic with people, and you should debate in a constructive manner. But having those very conflicting views of Bitcoin and so on, it's healthy. This is also what brings resilience to Bitcoin. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In the event that we have Upcat activated, or every other, what would you say, pathway to make opening Bitcoin more like BitVM or Collider VM, what are we looking at? Are we looking at just scaling, or are we looking at privacy, programmability? What is that going to bring to Bitcoin in general?
All of that. Yes, it will bring scaling. It will bring programmability. You could imagine like more use cases if you want, but you could also imagine like pure payment layer tools that will just use the technology that we have to do like payment solutions that are usable by normies with a very good UX at scale. But you could also have general purpose rollups on top of Bitcoin with programmability, with DeFi, with everything you want, and also privacy. So I think one of the biggest benefits of adding ZK verification of Bitcoin is actually to bring privacy. I think it's one of the main benefits because this is something that is needed the most on Bitcoin right now. It's more important than adding programmability, in my opinion, in terms of priority. But it could enable all of that. So this is what is beautiful with that. You don't have to choose. It brings programmability, privacy, and scale. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I think to touch one more thing, I think it was just a few hours ago you tweeted, Starknet is freedom tech. And yeah, so I'm very interested in what freedom tech is all about, and maybe throw a bit more light on what it is.
It's a good question. Freedom tech is amazing. I truly believe this is what can save the world, like improve the world dramatically. This is everything that can give tools to individuals to take back their sovereignty and freedom. This is the general definition, I would say. So you can see it as a continuation of the cypherpunk principles and ideology, this idea that you can use code and mathematics to bring back your sovereignty as an individual. You know, there is an asymmetry of power in the world, and most of the time it comes at the detriment of individuals. You have authoritarian regimes, tyrannies that are using this asymmetry of power to put pressure on people, to kill their freedom and sovereignty and everything like that, even the most basic fundamental rights and so on. So Freedom Tech is everything that can help you in this fight if you, as a person, you want to take it back. And we have now an alternative. Bitcoin paved the way to show that it is possible to replace institutions with code. And now it is unstoppable. You cannot stop this idea. It was just the beginning. Now that we see that there is an alternative, we see that it is possible to use the same philosophy for many more things. Freedom of speech, individual rights and possession, truly owning your life, your digital life, and possessions and everything like that, to make sure that no one will be able to censor your voice and so on. So Freedom Tech is that. So like there are many good things that can help in that. Bitcoin to fix money, Nostr, for example, that to do the same for communication. Like this is a freedom of speech protocol, basically. So this is Nostr. You can see Nostr as what Bitcoin is to money for communication. Okay, it brings censorship resistance for communication. So it's really freedom of speech protocol. And ZK is also a great tool for freedom of tech, because ZK brings this ability to verify the integrity of something, even if you have 1 million less power than someone else. This is beautiful. I love it. This idea that it can shake the asymmetry of power in the world. This is a beautiful, powerful idea, and I want to push more on that. This will be my focus going forward. I will communicate more in the coming weeks, but yeah, freedom tech is extremely important. Like for me, you know, I have kids, and this is, I'm thinking more and more about the world they will see when they will grow up and so on. And I'm concerned. Look, I'm worried. And I live in Europe, so I'm relatively in a safe, comfortable place compared to other countries that are. But Europe now is cooked, like in terms of surveillance, in terms of what they are doing, in terms of the measures to bring surveillance to social media, to everything, to money, like all the discussion about having CDBC currency, which will bring more control on money and on our communications. And I'm scared, you know, I'm worried. And what do we have as a tool? We either can go on the streets and demonstrate, like strike and so on, or take weapons and fight. But I don't want that. I think for the first time, we have a new weapon that is code and mathematics that is more efficient than any sword or gun. We don't need guns anymore for this revolution. We have the tools. We need people to code. There is this famous quote of Hal Finney that I loved, which is like, if you want to change the world, don't protest, write code. And this is true. And Bitcoin showed it, like with this simple idea that with a piece of code, you can truly change the world. Man, it's amazing. And we need to extend that. We should not stop the fight. Fixing money is extremely important. We need it, but we need to extend that. And Freedom Tech is this idea of generalizing what Bitcoin did for money to everything else we need as individuals to take back our freedom.
Yeah, I think just to allude to what you're talking about, especially with censorship on social platforms, I mean, it's horrible seeing what is happening in Europe currently, especially with censoring on X. I was watching, should I mention UK for one example, arresting. It's just terrible watching all those things. Looking to Nostr now, I can see the reason why Nostr would be a good pathway going forward when it comes to social platform, because you can't really censor people, right? We know, I think X currently is giving it a little bit of freedom, but what happens tomorrow when it enters the wrong hand? That's also another thing to look at. I mean, the past US administration was very heavy-handed on censorship. So, I mean, I can understand why Nostr is the pathway forward. I know you've mentioned BitChat too.
BitChat, exactly. Yeah.
What's it about? Because I haven't looked into it anyway.
Yeah, BitChat is amazing, man. I can send you a link later about also the concrete examples in the real world. So BitChat is an application that is built by someone that I love, Kali, who is the creator of Cashew protocol, but he's also the creator of BitChat with Jack Dorsey. They're working together on that. It's amazing. So it's a simple idea. Basically, the core idea is to use offline communication protocols like Bluetooth, Bluetooth mesh, to bring communication tool. So it's a messaging application that you can use even offline, using Bluetooth and mesh network of Bluetooth, like to do like some hops, and you can like extend the distance where you can communicate. And it's truly uncensorable. You cannot censor it because it does not even use internet. So people are using it a lot to organize strikes and so on. So you had amazing example in Nepal, in Gaza as well, when they shut down the internet, this kind of stuff. Also like in countries that had like natural disaster, some hurricane in Jamaica, for example, people were starting to use BitChat to organize together, to communicate without internet and so on. And it's also using Nostr, it can use Nostr under the hood. You can like imagine that you are using Bluetooth with your people. And then at some point, if someone has internet, it can use Nostr as a relay to forward communication across the globe and so on. So this is amazing technology. And you can integrate Bitcoin into it and so on. So it's really a solid foundation to rebuild internet tools to make it like censorship resistant as its core. So BitChat is amazing. I can send you example of the spike of downloads in some countries that had dramatic events, political manifestations and stuff like that. It's beautiful tech. I think we need more of this kind of stuff. This is freedom tech. BitChat is really a great freedom tech tool.
Oh, great. Going forward, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years' time, what do you see privacy look like? What will be the outlook of privacy on blockchain?
I hope that in 3 to 5 years, like all blockchains will have privacy by default. I hope that will be the case. It's probably ambitious because I realistically, I think it will take a bit more time, not only for the technical aspect, but also more importantly for the discussion with regulators and legal pressure and stuff like that. This can take a lot of time, but hopefully there is a start of a comeback to fundamentals in crypto with more people realizing the importance of that. And I'm betting on the fact that with more and more people, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If more people believe that it's normal, then it will become normal. So I'm betting on that. Hopefully it will happen. So my ideal dream would be that in 3 to 5 years, all blockchains have privacy by default, and that privacy is considered normal.
Oh, fair enough. So there's a lot of things that's happened on Starknet this year. I mean, I can go from Stool, decentralized sequencers, BTC-Fi, Grinta upgrade, privacy now, and of course we're discussing quantum computers too. And this is a lot that has happened in 1 year. I have to commend Starknet for everything. But I want to ask, what is the next? I mean, it's a bit asking for too much. I mean, considering everything that has gone on, that you guys have done. But what will be the next focus for Starknet going forward? I mean, we're going into 2026. What's the next focus? Are we consolidating on what has been built, or are there new frontiers to be explored?
I think first is to consolidate over what we built. Like on the technical stuff and technical infra, yes, we will continue optimizing everything like scale, cost, blah, 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 whatever. But in terms of growth and business case and so on, it's also time to consolidate. Like we started BTC-Fi. So far, it has been good success and it's progressing well, but we need to double down on that. If we want to truly unlock Bitcoin economy, we need to go much further than that. So we need to accelerate. So to create the flywheel that we need in order to bring liquidity, to improve the products, to solve people's real needs, to improve everything like that. So I would say that there is a need to focus and consolidate on what we built already. But of course, on the tech aspect, we'll continue accelerating on privacy. And we actually believe that it is the combination, because what we will build in terms of privacy, this will improve BTC-Fi and unlock stuff that we want for the future. So this is all part of the plan for the long-term vision to unlock Bitcoin economy, and we will continue in that direction. This is the main focus. But at the same time, we of course remain opportunistic and discuss with various actors, like it can be large-scale consumer apps on Web2 that have like millions of users and that could potentially use Starknet for their need and so on. But yes, I would say the main focus is truly to double down on unlocking Bitcoin economy at a very large scale.
Oh, fair enough. I was thinking the same thing because a lot has happened this year. It will be asking for too much going into new frontiers. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I don't know if there's something else you want to touch on that we haven't talked about.
No, I think we addressed most all the topics I wanted to touch. So thank you for this opportunity, man. It was a great pleasure to spend this time talking with you. Finally, like we have been discussing about that for a while, so I'm happy that we finally made it. Yeah. By the way, I'm very bullish on Africa. I was discussing yesterday with Kali that I mentioned. I did a podcast with him. I suggest you to watch it. And he was explaining why he's extremely bullish on Africa. We were discussing why Africa is hope for Bitcoin and for freedom tech and so on. Like with the insane energy of builders. There was the big Africa Bitcoin conference. Kali was there, and my colleague Keredin KK was there as well. He's leading the Africa Venture Studio. By the way, we did not communicate a lot, but about it right now. But many things are happening in Africa for Starknet. So I forgot to mention that. Expect to hear more about that in the coming months as well. Very good stuff are happening in Africa. And I'm like Kali, I'm extremely bullish on Africa. I think it's an inspiration and hope for Bitcoin. And and Bitcoin is hope for Africa to also take back their sovereignty and freedom. It's finally time for Africa to grow, to wake up, and like Bitcoin paved the way, and also like African people, they understand better the value proposition of Bitcoin because they know they can't trust their governments, they have weak currencies and so on. So those are very good conditions to understand why Bitcoin is amazing. So it's a real opportunity. Like, for example, if I compare with Europe, it's a boiling frog. Like we have the impression that we are in a safe position, blah, blah, blah. It's an illusion. So I think it's a big risk of being killed slowly. While for Africans, they are waking up for real, and they are young. They have the green tap power, man. It's insane. So I'm very bullish on Africa, and hopefully we'll do great things in Africa. We are discussing with many talented teams in Africa. We want to double down on Africa also. I forgot to mention it, but this is something big that we are cooking as well. Yeah, Africa is amazing, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I see that as a compliment too. But yeah, to buttress what you said, I mean, crypto in general, Bitcoin has been a lifesaver for a lot of us here in Africa because there's just a lot of things, especially the heavy-handedness of government, especially in my country, Nigeria. There's a lot of restrictions when it comes to some of these things, and the only way people are having to find a way around it is crypto. Not to give out much, but yeah, I agree with you. Crypto is doing a lot of good for us in Africa. But I'm not letting you run away now. So I always do, I do an episode where I ask random questions at the end of the show, and you just give me the first answer that comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one would be, who is your favorite handle on X? You can't say Eli Ben Sasson. Your favorite Starknet handle on X?
Starknet. It's a hard one, and I can't say Eli. Okay. Oli, of course. Oli.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair. Odin is going to have a problem with you.
Yeah.
So next one would be if you had to pick a campaign this year, the most successful campaign this year, the one that sits at the pinnacle, what would it be? The Green Tag campaign, the BTC 5 season campaign, or the Starktember campaign? Which one would it be for you?
It depends on the criteria. Like in terms of vibes, I really love the Green Tag vibes. The Starktember vibes, I mean, which was initially a Green Tag campaign. But in terms of success, I would say BTC 5 season. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. But I like September, maybe because I got the meme prize in the September campaign, so I kind of like this.
Nice. No, in terms of vibes, it was very cool. Like
Yeah,
vibes
but
were amazing.
September was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one. If you had to choose one useless superpower between these three, what would it be? Turning water into lukewarm tea, which is really useless. Being able to teleport, but just for 3 inches. And then last one would be being able to speak in penguin language.
What the fuck? Okay. Interesting. I would say teleport, even if it's only 3 inches. I think you can still do interesting moves with that. I don't know what exactly, but I would choose this one. Yeah. Maybe to dance or like to do some impressive stuff or for fighting, maybe. It could be a cheat code, but yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Abdel, for joining me today. Such a pleasure, I have to say.
Thank you, man. It was amazing. Thank you for what you do. I love it. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abdel, for joining us on this episode of Starknet Espresso. It's been an incredible one, unpacking privacy, punching resistance, Starknet, and the wider freedom tech movement. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Starknet Espresso and follow us on X at Uche2V for more updates on Starknet and the blockchain. See you on the next one. Bye for now.